All right, folks, welcome back to our special Halloween edition, the spooky edition of Into the Lion's Den with your hosts, Captain No Costume and Sully from Monsters, Inc. JD
That's right.
Stevens and Christian Griffith, brought to you proudly by Pride Roofing and Construction and LVL Creative Studios. Take us away.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week we decided to take a little bit of break from our normal content. So we're just going to, Halloween's coming up this week, and we just wanted to roll into and just spend a little bit of time with the holiday. We all enjoy Halloween around here, so I think they'll probably throw a few images of the shop around here of what we have going on, of lots of decorations and things like that. So we definitely enjoy the holidays, and we take time to celebrate those as a team when we can, and then also just spending the time with each other and enjoying the different holidays as they come around. So I know that Halloween's always a big one around here, so we're gonna do a little bit of Halloween content and talk about some stuff for Halloween this year.
I basically have one full room in my house that's our decorations. I'd say 2/3 of it are Halloween decorations. 1/3 is Christmas, and there's in the midst of those a couple of other holidays. So it's a big one for me and the kids. So anybody? Well, I'm not gonna give you my address because I don't want any hate, that kind of stuff. But drive through Windsor sometime, and if you find a 13-foot Jack Skellington and a couple other really cool spooky things, that's probably my house. Let's chat.
Jack Skellington, huh?
Yeah, actually, we have 3 different blow-ups of Jack Skellington and doing 3 different things. We got Oogie Boogie, we got Zero, we got this gigantic tree that lights up. We got all kinds of stuff. And the inside of the house is just as packed out as the outside of the house. So we got a lot of cleaning to do on November 1st.
That's typically how that goes. That's why I've been terrible about Christmas is my big one, but I love Halloween also. So Are you guys a big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas?
Big.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny about Nightmare Before Christmas is I was never really a huge fan, but only because I didn't really follow it and watch it much. I think I watched it once in my childhood and then never again. But Hannah, my wife, is absolutely obsessed. She's got 14 mugs and a bunch of shirts and blankets and whatever else. So every year we make it a tradition. We go and get one new decoration, and that turns into about 3. 2 of which being Nightmare Before Christmas things. So, yeah. So we got a lot.
Okay. I was never really. I think the first time I saw Nightmare Before Christmas was 3 years ago.
Really?
100%.
Doesn't surprise me. You don't watch a lot of good movies, so.
I really don't. Well, I don't watch horror at all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about horror movies in this episode. So.
I know a lot about them. So the big thing with the big way that I engage with any horror content is I play a lot of video games. So one of my favorite video games is called Dead by Daylight. So it's an asymmetrical 4 versus 1 where one of you plays a monster, and a lot of the old school horror characters and then also a bunch of new school horror characters have been incorporated into the game. So I have got to enjoy their stories and things through that realm. And then also I remember playing Fear when I was a kid, of just utterly terrifying.
I remember Resident Evil video game came out, and my brother, so I always thought it was so cool when my brother and his friends would let me hang out with them. And one time I went to his friend Alex's house, and they did an all-night play Resident Evil all night thing, and I was petrified in the corner the whole time, and I ended up just distracting myself by looking through his dad's gigantic movie collection over and over and over. But yeah, that was pretty. Graphics obviously are not something that's going to scare kids at this age, but that was crazy.
Well, they've remade a bunch of the Resident Evils to where I've watched the playthrough of them or played some of them, and they're absolutely every bit as terrifying, but the characters are fascinating. I've always thought that I have a large appreciation for old school horror telling. So Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, any of those characters, I have a huge respect for those characters because there's an actual story there. Part of the reason that I haven't loved new horror specifically is a lot of it feels like it's either it's just boiled down to like overly gruesome or cheap like jump scares.
Cheesy jump scares. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of boil or push them in two directions. The ones that hook me in and get me, the suspense. I was talking about this beforehand, but the ones that get me feeling different. I've never truly been scared by a movie, even so much. Excuse me, everybody. But when I was a kid, I used to do things like, ride my bike down to the movie store down the road and rent all the scary movies and then watch a marathon by myself at night in our unfinished basement where my room was, close all the lights off, shut the doors, all that stuff. Never really hit me that hard, but like exorcism movies, those ones get me. I mean, my faith leads into that one because it's like, well, this is real,
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe not the cinematic events of this movie, but at the same time, it's like, I better protect my heart because I don't want that to happen, And so those ones get me a little bit, but outside of that, I've really never been scared by them. I'm just more fascinated by them. Like, what's the creativity of this producer and this director and that kind of stuff? Are they able to, approach it with more than just cheesy jump scares or, overcompensation through incredibly gruesome, disgusting stuff,
Absolutely. And I think that's why I really appreciate like the old. They're kitschy now. They haven't held up as well as some of the other. The more modern horror and the things like that. But the big thing is I have, since I was a kid, I had a really active imagination. So like I would see anything like that, and it would hold on. I would hold on to it forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I have just avoided that almost exclusively my whole life.
Yeah.
So like Texas Chainsaw came out when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
The remake, one of them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And there was. That's back when banner ads could have sound and just autoplay on your web browser.
Mm-hmm.
And that one messed me up for a time. It might have been early middle school, or late middle school, early high school. But I had a waterfall. I had one of those noise make alarm clocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the water one sounded exactly like the chainsaw sound effect they used for that movie. Messed me up. I couldn't use that alarm clock anymore. It was like my favorite.
Throw it out, trash.
100%. I'm not a horror person.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things of it's never really resounded with me. It's a joke among my friend group of like, we're gonna do a horror movie thing for Halloween, and they're like, everyone's welcome, including you, JD. We know you won't come, but you're welcome.
It's a completely off topic from Halloween and whatever, but I have a similar story. I had alarms set for wrestling practice all the way through college, all 5 years. I only wrestled 4 of the 5 years, but every practice had the same alarm sound, and it was when you could plug in songs. So I had Taking Back Sunday, Make Damn Sure would pop off at 2:30, and it's time to go to practice. I, to this day, cannot listen to that song without getting incredible anxiety. I'm like, shit, I got to go get destroyed for the next 3 hours, So, yeah, it's funny how things kind of work their way into your brain like that. So, but anyways, I think we should probably set the stage, maybe talk a little bit about the history of Halloween, and then we can go back into, some evolution of the coolest movies that we like, the horror story or horror flick genre and all that good stuff. But let's talk about Halloween, right? Let's make
Absolutely.
it fun.
So, I know that. Wow, my brain just totally.
We'll be back.
Yeah, click. One of those old school TV where it just cuts to the colored screen. But Halloween started. It has a lot of different roots, but one of the biggest ones, specifically in the U.S., is we take a lot of root from the Sam Heughan, which I believe is Celtic. I'm just going to look at my notes because it's right here. Yeah, Celtic. And so Sam Heughan was when the veil between worlds was believed to be the thinnest. So the veil between our world and the world of the dead. And so they would, during Sam Heughan, part of that was they would carve gourds to ward off spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So they were originally as like a protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the migration to the U.S., pumpkins were more... They're easier to carve than a gourd because gourds are really hard, but more available. So we started carving jack-o'-lanterns. So that's kind of how we arrived there.
Mm-hmm.
As far as all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then with the rise of horror, with the rise of like film, and then Dracula, with Dracula and Frankenstein, it really became its own genre, and I think those things slowly were just kind of incorporated into this time of year.
Sure. I think, well, obviously this is not off the notes, and it's not something I reviewed beforehand, but I was listening to a podcast, I think it was over a year ago now, where they were talking about how something to do with the time of year. I know we picked, October 31st, but there are, solstices and the different ways that the stars align, and there are certain times like a full moon, right? A full moon changes the tide, it changes certain things within your body. Your cells are operating differently because of the Earth's magnetism and spin and blah 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 blah. Ask any person who's ever worked in a not urgent care, but like an emergency room, about how crazy it gets on a full moon. And it's not something that the regular public sees as much. Like, people might act a little bit different, but there's more accidents, there's more things because people are more energized and certain things like that. So this time of the year, and what they're talking about by warding off the evil spirits, is one of those times of the year where essentially everything is set up perfectly, where the world's energy and the spin of the Earth and the stars align to the point where they felt like the veil between evil, or not evil, but dead and undead, became smaller and smaller and thinner essentially. So it's like it's more or less about the way that the world is working, and weird things start happening, but that evolved into, well, let's ward off these spirits because we believe this to be true. And then that got commercialized as it went into America. It's not just a gigantic play to get people to buy candy.
No.
Right? There's a lot of history behind all this stuff, but that's one of the reasons this time of the year, it's like it's right after the harvest moon, and certain things like that. So there's a lot to do with celestial bodies that lead to the spookiness. Plus everything's dying, right? So it just plays on top of itself, right? Everything outside is going from green to gray, green to brown, and as things are dying, people think about death more. Plus the energies are different, so on and so forth. So pretty cool.
Can we actually have you, because I know the podcast you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
Can you mention them by name?
Well, that wasn't on Haunted Cosmos.
It wasn't? Oh, shit.
No.
All right, never mind. Sorry. That was on me. Sorry.
That might have been on Haunted Cosmos.
Say, definitely. I don't remember the episode number, but
okay. Yeah, so I guess it's a good time to plug in some of the people I like listening to the most. What I was referring to was Haunted Cosmos. It's produced by New Christendom Press. It's a big media company that's primarily Christian content, and essentially, and Brian Survey and Ben Scarrett are the two authors and people on camera and whatever. I would encourage anybody and everybody to listen into it because they talk about metaphysical, basically anything crazy in the world. Anything that has mystery and craziness and blah, 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 they talk about it. But I believe that's in their first season. I don't know which one it is, but they're talking about All Hallows Eve and the history behind essentially where Halloween came from. So plug them in. They're awesome. If they were ever to hear this and write us a comment, I would probably shit myself because I literally wait every other Thursday. I'm like staring at it, refreshing my screen, like, when are they putting out the new one? When are they putting out the new one? When are they putting out the new one? So
okay.
it's good. Yeah. So
I haven't listened to that one. The big one that I listen to for the Halloween content, I've listened to every episode that he's produced, is Lore.
Ooh, dig that.
Yeah. So Aaron Mahnke.
They refer to him regularly in that show.
Do they really?
Yeah, they listen to it because they talk about lore, folklore. They talk about old myths, old legends. They talk. It's awesome. But
yeah. Lore is I believe I've listened to every episode he's ever put out, including the remasters of old episodes. Those people are experts as far as it goes into these type of things. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have any of the depth of knowledge that any of those people have.
Sure. Well, yeah. What's cool about watching the evolution of Haunted Cosmos is it started as just a fun thing that they did, and it evolved to the point where they had enough patrons to pay for Ben Scarrett to be full-time. So he spends weeks researching these topics, and he plugs in all of the references and so on and so forth. And yeah, I wouldn't pretend to say that any of this stuff is perfectly accurate. All I'm saying is I love Halloween, and I love everything that surrounds it. So yeah, here we are talking about it.
So everything that surrounds it. We mentioned pumpkins, and I have to ask the question: are you a pumpkin spice person?
Well, it tastes good, but I'm not like freaking out about it.
You're not like
as soon as it's sweater weather,
sweater weather.
Everything smells like pumpkins, and everybody's wearing turtleneck sweaters and.
The pumpkin scent is my least favorite scent in the world.
And whatever. No, yeah. I mean, I like all of the smells, the autumn smells that come out and whatever, but it gets a little over the top for sure.
I mean, it feels like it starts earlier every year.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like July, and they were like, pumpkin spice has been released. It's like,
well,
bro, what?
What's the last major holiday? I mean, there's lots of holidays, but the last major holiday is 4th of July, right? So my kids...
Labor Day?
Well, Memorial and Labor Day are fun, but they're not like... this thing you get dressed up for, and you
correct.
Say,
they're not
whatever.
The same level.
So my kids, basically around August 1st, are like, "Can we put up the Halloween decorations?" I'm like, no.
August 1st?
I have to push them off from basically August 1st until October 1st. Like, no, we're not going to do it yet. No, we're not going to do it yet. And then I play it off. Well, this is a legitimate reason. I don't want to put all the stuff out in the yard because I got to keep watering it. I don't want to kill the grass, right? so I'm like, nope, we got to keep the sprinklers on. No, we got to do this. No, we got to do this. But really, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not that crazy. I'm not putting up Halloween decorations for 6 months of the year. So
you're not the guy that leaves the 6-foot skeleton in your yard all year and dresses it up.
No. There's a guy down the road that does that. He's got one that sits, right here in Loveland. It's a skeleton that's like got his hands on the like the small eave on the front of the house.
Okay.
And they like made the eave look like a piano most of the year. So it's like the skeleton's playing and stuff like that. Whoever you are, you're cool as shit, but I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, our neighbor had one of those, I don't remember what they are. They're like 10 or 12 foot skeletons that you can put in your yard that came out a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And they dressed it up all year round. They put it in, the funniest one was they put it in a Santa, like made a Santa suit for it. Uh-huh. And so they just had a skeleton Santa in the yard. Freaking awesome.
Nice. Yeah. Well, if you guys ever want tips on Halloween decorations, the best and most cost effective are Home Depot of all places. Go to Home Depot. That's where you get your Halloween stuff. So,
really?
Really, really. Huh. Their stuff, they got animatronics, Vlad behind that's creeping up here on JD. He's one of the Home Depot guys. So.
Okay. So as we're talking about this, I know that we mentioned movies kind of at the start, but was there when you think of a Halloween movie, is there one that's like, I have to watch it every year?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a few, actually.
Okay.
So I have to watch, this one's ridiculous, but I have to watch Ernest Scared Stupid. Have you ever watched that movie?
Don't even know what it
Early
is.
90s. Ernest, don't remember the Ernest movies? That guy? No.
No.
They're really dumb. Terrible plot lines, but it reminds me of my childhood, so I have to watch it. So I used to always watch it myself, but this year I bought it on Amazon, and Gabe has watched it about 14 times since we bought it, which is great. So I'm like, yes, I got a movie partner. Nightmare Before Christmas definitely has to come on, and what's interesting about that movie is that runs from October 1st to December 26th, basically, because it's both Halloween and Christmas.
Absolutely.
And then I will always pick out a couple of true scary movies. I always watch The Exorcist. I'm not sure why. I always watch The Exorcist.
You need to watch the director's cut specifically.
The director's cut?
Yeah, because they don't have her coming down the stairs backwards unless it's in the director's cut.
Really?
It's only in the director's cut.
I think I've seen it. I can't remember, though, if I ever have it.
There are a few extra added scenes that make it even better.
Yeah.
So.
So, and then, but then, you know, I don't get to watch as many movies as I did when I was a kid, but I definitely will use like Friday and Saturday evenings because I got to do this. You know, I'm not going to let the kids watch the scary stuff. So it'll be like in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. So, you know, for the month of October, Saturdays and Sundays usually, Friday and Saturday usually. But anyways, this year I watched The Terrifier. I was talking about that with Lachlan. Now that, you remember how we talked about those two subsects where it's like, you know, cheesy jump scares and then incredibly gruesome. This one's both. That's the whole movie.
Interesting.
You know, it's produced really well. The way that the camera angles, the graininess that's behind the camera to make it look, you know, like the streets, like the alleys and stuff of like old gangster movies and stuff like that. It's really cool. But it is. I'm not going to encourage anybody on here to watch it unless you're a gore fan because it is absolutely disgusting and in multiple scenes. Like, but every horror movie is the same. It's like they had like 3 to 5 at least chances to kill this guy that's coming after him, and they like purposely make a dumbass decision. That's the thing that never makes any sense. Like on the first Terrifier movie, for instance, she stabs him in the back and leaves him there, and then she stabs him in the face and leaves him there, and then another guy bashes him in the back of the head with this freaking it's like a tank that he was what was he doing? Exterminating bugs in the top of the building with and stuff like that. And they just left him there instead of, you know, finishing him off. Like, this guy's trying to kill you. You should probably do the same thing so you can save yourself. And they don't, right? And all of them end up dead. You know?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's the funny part about it. Like, I like the horror movies because of that, too, at the same time. Like, they're so cheesy and they're so, you know, over-the-top gory. But they also have just the dumbest people making the dumbest decisions. So it's like you just make fun of them in your head or with whoever you're watching with the whole time. So they never really scare you. They just entertain you, you know.
See, and you say the dumb decisions, but like, have you ever watched videos of people in haunted houses? So one of my favorite things that has come out of commercialized Halloween is all the wild haunted houses. And there's some that record the videos of people doing things while they're in them. Mm-hmm. And people will do legitimately stupid things. They'll just like, even though they know they're in a haunted house, they'll just like freeze at doors and like keep pulling on a door that's obviously a push. And like that panic when it sets in, it makes you do such incredibly dumb things.
Yeah, I could see that.
So like it's really funny to watch. It's actually one of my favorite things about Halloween is seeing all the new like videos that come out from the different haunted houses around the States, because they make me laugh so hard because people do things like that. But continuing in then like the movies, so our big family, this is gonna show you how opposite of horror I am. We always watch Hocus Pocus.
I forgot. Hocus Pocus has to be watched at least once. Yeah.
So that one's been a big tradition for a really long time. And then, so we watch that one every year, and it's so the opposite of all of it. But it is still one of my favorite films as far as just films.
Lit black flame candle. I love Hocus Pocus. Nobody can tell me that that's not just an iconic, amazing, legendary, will never go away film. Like, I don't know anybody that doesn't like Hocus Pocus. So.
I know one.
Okay, now I know one person who doesn't like Hocus Pocus, but he doesn't count. He's behind the camera.
My argument, I think, is fair. I think it's not a bad movie. I loved it as a kid. I think I watched it again as an adult, and I just looked at it and said, that did not age well.
Well, but
really
do any like
some
old
do.
movies
Some
age
do.
that well?
Some do.
I mean, I purposely will watch like I think I was talking to you about this. I will purposely watch movies from like the late 70s through the 80s because that was before CGI. So I'm like, I just want to watch good actors and creative sets, and that's why I watch it. So, but I wouldn't say that Hocus Pocus has the greatest acting of all time, but it's timeless in my opinion.
I agree. So, you're in costume.
Yeah.
So I know that when me and my group of friends, we used to always do crazy stuff on Halloween. So we have I was looking for a costume today, and none of them fit because they're all for like my sisters and things, and all of my costumes were always like last minute deals. Mm-hmm. But there was one year.
Doesn't surprise me.
What? That doesn't seem like a JD move at all. No, definitely a JD move. But one year we all got morph suits. I don't know if you remember when those were a craze in like the early.
Are those the ones that are just one color?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I had a huge group of friends, and we just ran around downtown Fort Collins in these morph suits, just being dumb in them. And so, like, and then costumes have always been a huge part of my family. I went through 3 boxes of costumes today trying to find something to wear today, and then I was like, nah, I couldn't find anything. But Mom and Dad used to do, like, wicked elaborate costumes for parties, and so I found some photos that they did Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein one year, and to the point of like went and got football pads from the thrift store so that my dad would be broad enough, and like full costume, like full makeup. It's wild. So like, I know, like, with you having kids, of like, have your kids started to move towards like the scarier ones, or are they still in only the fun? Or
Gabe went with scary this year.
Did he?
Yeah, he has what is it? Bloodface, the Scream guy. What's his name? Ghostface.
Ghostface. Okay.
Yeah, but he got Ghostface. Yeah, Lachlan has him on his T-shirt right now. We're all celebrating Halloween a couple days early, but. Anyways, yeah, he got Ghostface, but he got the one where it has this little pump in it, where it like shoots blood in the front of his face and stuff. And I'm just like terrified to take him because we generally will always, if it's not on Halloween, somewhere around Halloween, my mom will want all the kids to come over in their costumes and give them the candy and stuff like that. I'm like, my mom is gonna tear my ass for letting my 6-year-old wear a Ghostface costume. But I'm like, the kid likes what he likes. Last year he was Marshmallow. Like the DJ.
Oh, okay.
Marshmallow. He had the cool helmet and whatever, and so he's slowly transitioned. But now he's like, I gotta scare all the other kids at school, and that's his whole thing.
That's his whole goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always helped with like trunk or treats and stuff. As I was growing up, so costumes have always been fun, and then also doing we would go to we have a big corn maze here, Fritzer's corn maze, and we'd go do the haunted one every year, and we'd wear the most ridiculous things we could find. I think we did the morph suits one year at the corn maze, which, let me tell you, having one of those like that over your face the whole night, like trying to see in the dark, you're just. Eventually, I think all of us gave up, especially our buddy. His was black. Yeah. And he finally was like, I can't do this, guys. I can't see a goddamn thing.
That's funny. You guys just stumbling all over each other, running in the corn. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, tell me, what was your favorite costume? And why?
Favorite costume. So, I kind of have 2 answers for this. I have my favorite, like, what I can remember is like a kid's costume. And so. I think like 3 years in a row, we bought this costume from Disney. It was actually what I was trying to wear to complement your Sully, because we had to buy it in an adult size for me because you couldn't get it in kids. So I had a Tigger costume. Yeah. And I was obsessed with Tigger as a child. So like he was my favorite animated character for a really long time. Tigger movie came out, and I was totally about it. My older sister, we called her Pooh our whole life. So like that was part of it that kind of spawned out of like we always had to watch the Winnie the Pooh or read the books or any of that kind of stuff. I have one of the like old bindings from the early 60s of Winnie the Pooh. So that one was definitely my favorite because like I said, I wore it like 3 or 4 years in a row. And we actually, one of my buddies in high school wore it for our senior picture.
Nice. Nice.
So he's just like laid across all of us because our senior picture is not put in the yearbook our senior year. He's just laid across all of us, and we got in a lot of trouble for this. He had a brown paper bag with a Mountain Dew bottle in it. He's just laid across us.
Nice.
And then The other one that I had that was, it's one that I do like all the time. We did I guess it was technically a beer crawl, but it was just like go to a bunch of different restaurants downtown in Denver, and I went as Al Borland.
Nice.
One year, and I got so many compliments that day. They're like, "Dude, you look just like him." And I don't think so, Tim.
I don't think so, Tim. One of the best. Like, I love it when people wear their costume and they stay in character the whole time that they're doing it. So I have a friend. His name's Luke Vandenberg. He's on the wrestling team with me. Lives just in Windsor as well. He was in my wedding. You met him.
Yeah.
And anyways, he was Billy Mays. Oh,
okay.
Billy Mays here.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was spot on. He never broke character the whole night. We must have went to like 6 different parties, and the whole time he was just, and it's Billy Mays get up, just like selling people products. It was great.
That's amazing.
Best costumes for me when I was a kid, I had a ninja costume.
Okay.
Just made great memories with that one because you do the little. What do they call it? The parade of costumes in the elementary schools and whatever. And instead of, following in line, boy, girl, like you're supposed to, I was just jumping off of all the walls and like spinning around and hiding in corners. I was like, I'm a ninja, and I could get away with it. So I just, it was great. And then, so that was fun when I was a kid. But my 2 favorite costumes were Indiana Jones. So any year that I don't have anything planned, I have a full Indiana Jones get up. I've got the satchel, I've got the hat, I got the whip, I got the whole gamut. Got a lot of compliments on that one. Plus, I've talked about Indiana Jones is the greatest movie character of all time. So I got to emulate be Indiana Jones for.
Absolutely.
I think it's probably been 4 different Halloweens at this point.
Okay.
But the most fun I ever had was when me and my friend Austin Stubis, he was also on the wrestling team up Western. We were lucha libre wrestlers. And just imagine 2 incredibly fit, incredibly energized, very large college wrestlers with no shirts and lucha masks out wrecking things in college parties. It was an incredible time. We probably tossed over like 5 beer pong tables and got, jumping off the top ropes and like getting in random wrestling fights or wrestling matches in the middle of people's, house parties. It was pretty great. So
sounds like it was probably a pretty good time.
Yeah, that was back in my my crazier days, so don't hold it against me. But we had way too much fun. Too much fun.
I mean, that's how the corn maze is every year.
Yeah,
is just when we were doing that every year, it was always insane.
Yeah, I think that's what's the special part about Halloween is like everybody kind of gets into a spirit of sorts. There's some people that take it a little bit far, and it gets a little. I mean, I still have to this day. I look around when I take the kids trick or treating. I like check every little nook and cranny as we're walking along because I remember there was this one year. My mom will tell this story even probably more emotionally on than I will. But like, I had a paper bag for my candy, right? And we were out. I like would not leave till it was full of candy, and I had it to the top, like overfilling, And my mom's car was sitting right here, and there was like this hedge that was right here, and there were 3 kids on the other side of the hedge, and I come around like skipping to the car, like I got my candy, And there's another car over here that's on, right? It's a running car, and freaking these 3 kids. One of them pushes me over, the other one grabs the bag, takes off, and I'm just sitting there just crying because I went 3 hours of candy trick or treating, and here I am. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I got just like assaulted and stolen from, and so so I still have like my head on a swivel every time it's trick or treating time. I'm like, where are these little fuckers at, But yeah. Actually, my neighbor came through in the rescue after that, though, because nobody went to her house. She's this little old lady who, kind of too old. My mom and my dad would go back there, and they'd like take care of her and stuff like that. And she never turned her porch light on, so nobody went there. So she had a massive thing of candy, and she's like, "I'll help you out." And she just dumps it into my thing, and it was about halfway full, so it was okay. But yeah, There's some people, they take things like this too far, but yeah, no, I love, that's what I love about Halloween though, is just the spirit of people. Everybody's excited, everybody has a good time. Plus it's like the start button or a starting line to all the holidays and things like that, where people take time to spend with family and they do things together, and they start thinking about each other and how can we enjoy our family, our friends, our things. So that's what's special to me.
Yeah, the transition into that time with family and the transition between seasons. So, like, I think that's another thing that, like, a lot of people feel at this time of year of, like, especially, like, the transition of fall, which Colorado doesn't have. But it's either fall for, like, 3 days and then winter, or summer until it's winter. Like, we really don't get fall. Yeah. But that transition, and I love seeing, like, driving around seeing the pumpkins. I know that in years past, I don't know if it came this year, but a few years ago there was a big display that came through of, like, a bunch of carved pumpkins. Mm-hmm. They're all plastic pumpkins, but they're carved in different ways and things like that. Yeah. And I enjoyed the heck out of that, of, like, going and walking around that and seeing the creativity that people have for, this time of year, and enjoying that transition season. Mm-hmm. Of, we're transitioning from our summer and spring and our verdant months into our dormant months. Mm-hmm. And I really like this time of year, and I think it's a good time to, like, really start looking back on your year and seeing what we want to do different next year. Mm-hmm. And I think that, that's part of the reason we took the short pause this week, just to enjoy a little bit of time being silly, talking about some things that mean a lot to us. So.
Yeah, I think it's always important for people to do a little reflection. So if that's, like, triggered by the time of the year, everybody should reflect, everybody should adjust, everybody should pivot. It's always get better and better. But yeah, this is like that, we're closing the year off. We're going to have a little bit of fun, and then we're going to tackle it with our New Year's resolutions right after that.
New Year's resolutions, gross.
So, well, we missed a lot of talking points. Do you want to bring any of those up, or what do we want to do?
I think that we actually covered them just kind of like hit and miss. Mm-hmm. I know that the only other one that we can really dive into that we missed is the unofficial, like, stewards of the season, like bats, and how bats are the tied to folklore and vampires and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's really the only thing that, as far as notes goes, that I missed. We can talk. There's so much with this season. We didn't talk about witches and mummies. Mm-hmm. And the very real, the very real things that happened around those particular pieces of folklore in our country, and, like, how they've kind of revolved around this season now because of, like, the rise of spiritualism and how much of that influenced what we now consider Halloween. Mm-hmm. And then, the other big thing is, the iconic, your iconic, like, Halloween movies of any of those, if there's any of those that you really want to touch on, like the first time you saw them, or...
I don't know if we need to go into the first time we saw them. I know that, Lachlan, did you want to direct anything in regard to the film evolution and stuff, or were you pretty good?
All the stuff for the most part.
Yeah. Well,
if there would be anything, it would just be probably movie talk more than anything. Yeah. Like, the first one I saw was The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
In high school, saw one friend. We did Fritzler Farms first, and then we came home and watched Evil Dead. Holy shit, we were scared forever. Like,
I totally forgot about Evil Dead.
Yeah, and the worst part was is that tree doing that to that girl? Oh, yep, it is. Okay, this is a movie.
Yeah. I don't remember Evil Dead very much.
It's it's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of around messed up. Like devils and then spirits. And
what are your like subsections of Halloween or horror flicks, right? You've got like the spiritually based, so exorcisms, witches,
paranormal.
What is it?
Paranormal.
Paranormal stuff, and then you've got your mythological creatures. You got that whole genre. You've got, what else do we have in there?
Slasher films.
So yeah, then what time? This was probably the late 70s, early 80s, and this part of things really started developing. You had Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and all those different, timeless, just actual Halloween characters. You see them, everybody knows who they are. Actually, I got a funny story about Michael Myers.
Okay.
We can probably finish it on that one, because I don't know where else we want to take this one, because I could just laugh and tell you stories for forever, but I don't know how many people are going to sit and watch it for that whole time. But this one involves Gabe again. So
okay.
Gabe was only 3 years old. Okay, mind you, remember this. So we're trick-or-treating, and we decided, let's go out for another 20 minutes. Like, we had already done it for however long, but we decided, let's take him back out for about 20 minutes. We went to 2 streets over from my house. This is when I lived on the east side of Wellington. And because we knew there was some really, like, this guy really got into it. He had all kinds of stuff out in his yard. So we were like, let's see what they have. See if they have good candy along with their great decorations, right? So they have a Michael Myers standing in the corner. So, like, you're walking up, the entryways over here, and then you've got Michael Myers on this side of the driveway, right? And Gabe gets out of the car, because we just drove over there, because, he's small, and we were only going to 1 or 2 houses anyways. Gets out of the car, going by himself for one of the first times ever, right? And Michael Myers was not a statue.
Oh.
It was not a statue, and he's 3 years old, right? And this guy comes out of nowhere, like this, and Gabe just absolutely petrified, screams, jumps in the car. He wouldn't stop talking about Michael Myers. He still doesn't not talk about Michael Myers when we're driving. And you're driving in in the middle of the woods, and you see like an old abandoned house. He's like, that must be Michael Myers' house, But now it's like an intrigue. Like, he's 3 years older now, so like when he sees Michael Myers, he's like, he sees it. He's not as scared, but he's very cautious. Anything that has to do with Michael Myers. I'm like, but yeah, I mean, what kind of asshole just like freaks out a kid that's 3 years old, But the guy evidently afterwards, Hannah ripped him, and evidently he apologized, but he didn't really think that what it was very scary. But to a 3-year-old, a gigantic man with a white mask with a knife is probably pretty scary, But,
yeah, I mean that. It's funny about the things that some people find scary and some people don't. I worked in a haunted house a couple of years for a buddy of mine, and you'd have some people go through, like, I did the zombie section one year, and some people would come through and like weren't scared at all. They're just like, okay, whatever. Like, that's not. And then you'd have some people who are just like.
Zombies. That's the other. Yeah, you got zombies. I was trying to think of
zombies.
all the different ones. There's zombie movies. There's paranormal. There's slashers,
films.
and then you got creatures and whatever. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I guess maybe our Halloween fun conversation's over. Now it's time to have the real Halloween. Go out trick or treating, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing this year for Halloween?
I mean, probably nothing. Let's just be totally real.
Come on, JD, you gotta have a little bit of fun. It's a night of mischief. And it's the only good time.
I don't need any more mischief in my life. I got into quite a bit when I was younger. So
your cuppeth runneth over.
It sure did.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Into the Lion's Den for our special spooky edition of Halloween gore, Halloween, whatever. Please go out, trick or treat, take your kids out, make some memories, be safe. Check your candy. There are some real sickos in the world, so make sure that nobody's messing with all that good stuff. But make sure at the end of all of it, have as much fun as you can. It's a great day.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll catch you on the next one.
Have a great one, guys.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.